All right, we're going to start on Emily's flower shop, and the first thing we're going to do is the appliances. While I was going through the book and going through all the parts and pieces, I noticed that there was one package that didn't go with the book or anything else. So I decided to take this one out and make this one first as our kind of tester of how good we are at all these projects. This particular piece of furniture, I guess, had its own parts and pieces and individual bags, so I'm just going to take it all out and punch out all the pieces. Part of the instructions was to pre-fold everything, and it had some nice creases in it that made that job really easy. So I just folded it all together, kind of like, well, you're basically just making a bunch of little boxes. Once I got the biggest piece all together, it kind of looks like the old school TV cabinets. I don't know if anybody remembers those, but that's kind of what it looks like. And there was a shelf inside. What's funny is, you'll see at the end, when you build this, there's no way to open this or use this shelf, so I'm not sure. Maybe it's just a stabilizer to hold it in the shape of the square there, so it doesn't collapse on itself. Now this was the very first thing I made out of this kit, and I'm noticing that this glue just glops all over the place. One thing that I had to learn is how to control the glue flow, and it does not dry very fast either, so that was a little annoying. So when I hold it together here, it just pops right back open. After I glued the backing in place, I got tired of just holding it in place, so I got out some rubber bands and held it together that way. And the little doors had this mesh, so I just cut it to the size it said. It goes by millimeters and centimeters, which is perfectly fine. As long as you can read a ruler, you can measure by anything they say. And you just glue it into the back and wait 1,000 hours for it to dry. Once they're all dry, then we're going to start gluing it on. So this bottom piece, I imagine, is kind of like a false drawer or a filing cabinet kind of thing. This is a flower shop, so anything that you store in there is going to be in there. And then you make these itty bitty little door handles out of paper. So you just fold them into like a staple shape. There's also a little plastic piece, and you do fold it exactly the same way, and I just use my pliers. It does not provide any tools or anything, so luckily I have 13 of every tool, so it's very helpful. But you just bend it like a little staple and glue it right on. And now we're gonna glue on the top doors, and you'll see what I mean. There's this nice little opening space, but there's no way to access it. These doors don't actually open or close, which is fine. Once you get it all into the diorama, you're not going to be able to get to it anyway. So you just glue it on, wait for it to dry, and go to the next step. And here we're just going to put on the little door handles. I am slowly learning how to control that glue flow, and this is very much my learning my techniques project. And now we're going to cut some wire. These are going to be the pretend hinges on the side. And super easy, just cut it to the size they say and glue it to the edges. And it also has these little rivets glued to the bottom, and will make the feet. I do like doing these projects for this particular reason, because it was one of those, oh, I never even thought of using these little parts as feet, so I'll store it away in my brain for future from scratch projects. And it has some stuff on top of the cabinet. So one of them is this little plant holder with a maple leaf in it. So I just punched that out, put together the plant, and we're going to stick them on top. You'll notice I still have that rubber band on. I don't know if it's the plastic or something, but this just did not want to stay together. So I left that on until it was absolutely dry. Even while I just made sure it was out of the way of me gluing the little accessories on, and it works out. There you go. You got a little cabinet, and we'll see it without the rubber band at the end. Next up, we're going to make this little, they call it a bread maker, but honestly it looks like a toaster. It could be the translation, but it's a cute little pink toaster, so I'm just going to find all the parts and pieces. That's probably what I'm finding. This is the second project I did. The toughest part is just to gathering all the parts and pieces. One of the instructions told me to sand this particular piece at an angle on both sides because it's kind of fit into an angle glue-in piece. Hard to explain. I'll show you in a second. So we're gluing in that bottom piece that we just sanded, and you'll see the angle, so that makes it a little easier. I probably didn't have to sand it as extreme as I did, but I wasn't sure, to be honest. And just glued in the sides, and we'll go from there. And we just, they had nice little guidelines to put where to put these little wooden pieces, which was nice. Then I can make it nice and straight. So once you put those on, and then you're going to put some dial and knobs. Now we got some wire and a few little sequins and beads, and just cut it to the size that it says in the instructions. And you'll see what I mean when it looks more like a toaster to me, but could be a bread maker, I guess. Now you're going to notice that as I go through these projects that I use my little metal tweezers instead of the plastic one they gave to me. I can never get those little plastic tweezers to work the way that I want them to, and the control. So I always use my own, but and I use my hands a lot more than I should use tweezers, but you know, I'm backwards. This little toaster has a paper top, and it also has a couple little on and off buttons that are in paper, so I just cut those out and glue them on. So this plant shop apparently uses everything as a planter. So we're gonna stick this little, it kind of feels like foamy, spongy stuff. I don't know, it could be moss, whatever plant you want it to be, and you just stick it in there and it looks really cute. Next up, we got this little storage rack. It's for all the wrapping papers and ribbons and things like that. It probably was the trickiest so far that I made, just by rolling up these teeny tiny little rolls of paper. But you just start out with your pieces of wood and build the rack. And all these pieces of wood I also pre-painted. It tells you you really have to thoroughly read the instructions on these. It tells you to paint it before you put it together. And if you didn't read the instructions on the there's 3 different pages of instructions for the same thing. If you didn't read the one part where it says to paint it, then you're going to have to paint it afterwards. Just read everything thoroughly before you even start. That's all I'm going to teach you. Making the rack was nice and straightforward. A few pieces kind of bowed and I just squished them a little bit. But now we gotta make all the paper rolls. And at first I used the wrong wire, but they also tell you to get this wire and then to strip it. Basically cut a slit and take the plastic off the wire, because these are kind of electrical wires. And I started doing it the way they told you, by cutting it down the middle and then taking the plastic off. It's very tedious, it's very doable, but I have a handy dandy little tool, the wire stripper, and all you do is put your wire in there. It just barely cuts the outside. If you get it in the right hole here, pull that off. It exposes the wire on the inside, and you can just go boop. It should pull right out. Much, much, much easier. I use those, well, my dad's an electrician, so he has those, and I learned to use them while I was doing a lot of the lighting and things like that. Oh my goodness, they're a lifesaver. Here's the dreaded paper rolls. So I have these extra long needle nose pliers, and I kind of tried to use it to pre-fold it or roll it to make my life a little easier. As I went, I got better techniques. Now that one worked out pretty well, doing it that way, but I'm going to try it doing this way. It's basically kind of the curling iron effect. You get two wires, and once you get it going, you can just twist, 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 and you should get a nice little roll. And you do a whole bunch of them. They just get better the more you do them. Once you get the hard part out of the way, now we just gotta hang them up. And it's just basically wire stuck through the hole and crimped at the end so it doesn't fall off. Now this rack has a wire that hangs over the side that holds all the little ribbons. What you do is you just punch some holes on either side with a thumbtack. I had one, and you could probably drill it or whatever you have that's sharp and pointy, and put some holes there, and then that's where you're going to put your wire rack. Oh yeah, I forgot. This one was for the extra roll of paper on the side. It must be the paper that they use all the time. They put that one on the top kind of thing. And I did have to do a little bit of adjustments. I mean, sometimes you just can't take the instructions exactly as they do it. You gotta learn to adapt a little bit. And for some reason, this wire was way too long and it didn't come out evenly. So I just trimmed it a little bit and glued it in place. Next, we're going to make little tiny loops, and this one is going to hold the rack that holds all the ribbons and things like that. So you're just going to make little eyelets. make 2 of them, stick one on each side, and you're going to string the ribbons through. To make all the ribbons I put in quotes is they have this pretty little straw. I thought it was a pencil, but it's a straw. And so you're going to cut this and it's going to go flying once you retrieve it, and you make it kind of a circly effect, and then you're going to cut all these stripes into individual ribbons. And at first it just completely mangled it, so I had to get some extra sharp scissors to make it look even halfway decent. This one uses that same wire, but we're not going to strip it. We're just going to leave it the thickness it is, and just string everything all up and put it through the little loops. I do suggest waiting till your glue is completely dry before you start fiddling with it though. It didn't say to glue it, but I wanted to just a drop of glue on each end just for a little reassurance. I could just see myself placing it in the house and it just all falls out. Don't want that. Next, we're going to glue the last 2 rolls of paper. Now, it didn't ask to put wire in there. I had some spare wire, but when I placed it in there, it wasn't very tight and it wouldn't stay. So I made a wire that was a little, just a tiny hair longer, so that it fits in really tight, and then I can glue them in. And there you go. You got yourself a little wrapping paper station with some ribbon and everything. It was tricky, but we just took our time. And we got 3 little appliances or furniture that is just the beginning. If you like this, definitely give me a thumbs up, and also that'll put me back into your recommended so you can see the next one that's coming out. And if you haven't already, a subscribe would be even better. And then you can watch the whole series. This is just the first one of many, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye-bye.